last train and I must go. Oh, no, no, no. Oh, no, no, no. And I don't know if I'm ever coming home. Take the last train to Clarksville. I'll be waiting at the station. We'll have time for coffee-related kisses and a bit of conversation. Oh, no, no, no.
Streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and blasttheradio.com, this is The Lowell Green Show. The number to call and be heard around the world is 613-413-2217. Or email Lowell at blasttheradio.com. And now, here is Lowell Green.
Thank you, John. I got several topics today. I'm going to try to get through them all. But I want to start with a question. It is this. Listen, we have major political so-called summits, supposedly to combat anti-Semitism and Islamophobia. They're underway or were underway a couple of days ago, attended, by the way, by the Prime Minister of Canada. Now, there's nothing wrong with condemning attacks against Jews and against Muslims. But what about the attacks against Christians? Where is the summit dealing with the desecration and destruction of 48 Christian churches? Did you know that? 48 Christian churches within the last 2 weeks, either set on fire, heavily damaged, burned to the ground, or in some cases just desecrated and vandalized. Now, there's plenty of concern expressed by Trudeau and his government and others over anti-Semitism. Even more concern expressed over prejudice against Muslims. And we have recent examples in both cases of prejudice and outright attacks against both of those faiths. No question about that. But can we please be honest here just for the hell of it? Far more attacks, far more devastating attacks against Christian churches than against Jewish synagogues or Muslim mosques. I repeat, 48 Christian churches have either been vandalized or in many cases burned to the ground or severely damaged. And hardly a peep of protest from anybody. Certainly no concern from our political leaders. In fact, let me tell you something. Trudeau's top guy, the guy that whispered is in his brain every night, Gerald Butts, once called the desecrations of these Christian churches, quote, understandable. Gerald Butts, essentially the guy that runs this country, once said burning of these Christians is understandable. Can you imagine If anybody, any conservative were to say, well, you know, attacks in mosques are understandable, can you imagine what would be happening? And not only that, but we had in BC, talking about the burning of the churches, we had the leader of the BC Civil Rights Organization saying, quote, burn it all, burn it to the ground. Remember that? That was the concern, the extent of the concern. 48 Christian churches, and we've got the guy that runs the country, essentially, whispers in Trudeau's ear, tells him whether to go to the bathroom and how to do it, says it's understandable. And the leader of the BC Civil Rights Organization says, burn it all down. Beautiful. Very clear. I mean, the only interpretation that you can take from this is that attacks against Christians and Christian institutions and symbols is much less odious than attacks against Jews and Muslims institutions. I mean, that's the only conclusion you could come to. Rex Murphy, God bless him, puts it best when he writes, quote, the response to attacks on 48 Christian churches has been less than underwhelming from our politicians, unquote. And I must say, this is especially true of Justin Trudeau, who has attended or will attend both the summits dealing with anti-Semitism and Islamophobia. So let me ask you, my listeners, my viewers, what is your reaction to this acceptance? Not necessarily the attacks on the churches. That's bad enough. But what about the reaction, not just of politicians and leaders, but of the general public? I mean, I don't know if we've even seen an editorial in any of our newspapers condemning this. Maybe there has been, but there's been very little. But you can be damn sure that if one mosque was set afire, you can imagine it would be flaming headlines from coast to coast. There would be rallies, and Trudeau would be there, etc., etc. Ditto. Well, I'm not so sure about a Jewish synagogue. Prejudice against Jews is much more acceptable, particularly with the far left. Let's be honest there. Just ask anybody in the Green Party, right? But when it comes to Christian institutions, Christian churches, it's only Christians. And by the way, I just want to point something out. Some of those Christian churches were built for and by native populations. Doesn't even seem to be any concern about that. So what's your reaction here, folks? I've got several other topics. If you've got some thoughts on this, I'd sure love to hear it, because we're not getting heard. We're not hearing much from anybody else on this. 48 Christian churches attacked, many of them burned to the ground, and hardly a peep of protest or concern from anyone. Gerald Butt says it's understandable. Leader of the civil rights movement says burn them to the ground. Let me ask you this. I mean, are Rex Murphy and Lowell Green the only Canadians concerned? I'm not a particularly religious man. But attacks against Christianity surely are just as serious as attacks against Muslims or against Jews or attacks against anybody. Surely it's just as serious. But if it's just as serious, where the hell is the summit concerning prejudice, attacks against Christians? The number is there. You know how to get in touch with us, folks. We're waiting to hear from you. If I don't hear from you on this, I can only assume that it's attacks on Christianity are pretty well acceptable in this country. On another topic, let me point something out here, okay? Here we go again. Quebec, oh God, has stabbed Alberta, well, the entire West, in the back again. Surprise, surprise, right? For several years, plans have been proceeding to construct a huge liquid natural gas plant in the Saguenay district, northeast actually of Quebec City. So they're going to build, it was a $14 billion project. The plans were to pipe in natural gas from the West, primarily from Alberta, liquefy it at this giant plant in Saguenay, and then export it to European markets. Huge project, major project, not only for Quebec, it would provided hundreds, if not thousands, of jobs, and ditto in the province of Quebec. Up until now, Quebec has been highly supportive. In some cases, the government has even put some money into this in the planning. But as usual, the Quebec environmentalists have protested. And so Quebec has decided to halt the entire project. So here we go again. No Energy East, refuse to buy Alberta oil or gas, prefer to buy oil and gas from Saudi Arabia and the United States, support the United States and the Middle East over its own country. That's Quebec. And now they've canceled a major project to bring natural gas, one of the cleanest burning fossil fuels that we have. And they've canceled it. But you know what I really love? I love the statement from the Quebec Premier. Well, says the Premier, I understand that our friends in the West will be upset. Are you serious? You people in Quebec think you have friends in Quebec? After what you've done, canceled Energy East, now you're canceling this, virtually bankrupting the province, insulting the province, refusing to buy their oil and gas, while taking $13 billion this year alone, most of it from Alberta. Well, Alberta gets nothing. You think you have friends in the province of Alberta, you people in Quebec? You're dreaming in Technicolor. Bunch of hypocrites. Now, let me point something out to all of you wonderful virtue-signaling environmentalists in Quebec. Let me point out how great your environmental movement is, okay? Do you remember that back in the early 90s, started in 91 actually, 4,000 square miles of forest was flooded, drowned, destroyed to make way for the James Bay hydroelectric project? Oh, so this is the province that says, no, we won't allow one little lonely pipeline to come through to supply us with oil and gas. Oh, no, this is too environmental damaging. Meantime, you dump millions of liters of raw sewage, human waste into the St. Lawrence and into the Ottawa rivers. That's okay. You can't have a single pipeline, but you can flood 4,000. Folks, if you don't believe me, Google it. Just Google how many acres were flooded to make way for the James Bay project. You'll see all sorts of news stories. 4,000 square miles of trees. Beautiful trees. These are trees that suck up CO2. These are trees that would fight global warming. You killed 4,000 square miles of them to create this huge project. And that's not all. In 1996, according to the Inuit in the area, who I trust far more than the Quebec government, claimed that some 22,000 caribou were drowned in the flooding that occurred. 22,000, they say they found the bodies of some 22,000 caribou, described by the Inuit as one of the great environmental tragedies of the 20th century. That's their description. And you people claim you're environmentalists there? You're stopping a gas project? You're stopping a little pipeline? I mean, I have a pipeline that runs within a quarter of a mile of me here. It's about 100 yards wide. That's all. Beautiful. Let the deer come out and graze in it all the time. What a bunch of freaking hypocrites. Anybody, any comment on that? I mean, John, any text coming in on anything? Nothing, eh?
It is unbelievably quiet. They're there, though. We've got a couple of comments regarding the churches. Peter says, Justin pandering hard now. He doesn't care about Christian churches because he's not one. Most Christians don't vote for this mushroom. Look at his MPs and cabinet ministers have made other faiths other than Christian. One rule for conservatives and none for Trudeau. On CP24, the mayor of Mississauga and minister of transport rambled on for 40 minutes nonstop and really took no questions, just a commercial for the Trudeau party.
All right. So no one. Well, that's what I was afraid of. That it's just as far as most people are concerned, attacking Christians is just ho hum. Okay.
Apparently.
I hear you, folks. I hear you. I have another topic here, and it's this: what the hell is wrong with the anti-vaxxers? Now, this will get lots of comments on, or at least most of the anti-vaxxers. Let me tell you, in more than 60 years of conducting talk shows, dealing with everything from the civil rights movement, I did shows all through that, the Vietnam War, they threatened to shoot me there, women's liberation, government scandals of various sorts. I have been subjected to some pretty horrific response from some listeners over the years. Death threats against me and my family have not been uncommon up until fairly recently. And while I cannot say that I've had a death threat from anti-vaxxers, some of the responses have been pretty threatening and damn repulsive. Promises to piss on my grave are one of the most delightful of all of the threats that I'm getting. They're calling me every name in the book, from a commie to a terrorist, and even worse. John Melky, John, you've been subjected to some pretty horrific stuff as well.
Yep.
All because I have joined with millions, and I mean millions, of doctors, nurses, healthcare workers, scientists, and millions of ordinary citizens in urging people to get vaccinated. That's my transgression. I have urged people to get vaccinated. And for this, I'm being called every name in the book, and threats. And it continues, and it'll continue after this show. But it's not just me. That's fine. I've got thick skin. I've been through this before, from smarter people than most of you anti-vaxxers, by the way. But it's not just me. As a further illustration of the kind of people that we are dealing with here is a story that appears in the Citizen and the Sun about an attempt to launch a website informing people of various businesses where special care is being taken to guard against COVID infections. Several businesses here in Ottawa have been listed, but they had to take the site down. Why? Well, because some of the anti-vaxxers have attacked the businesses in several ways. They make dinner reservations for large groups of people, and then they don't show. They post very negative reviews on various websites, which can be very damaging, particularly to restaurants and other businesses. Very damaging to restaurants and other businesses, as I say. In some cases, the businesses have been threatened with boycotts and verbal abuse. And by the way, this includes some of the businesses that I endorse. That's how dirty and low down, not all of them. I'm not saying that all of you anti-vaxxers are vicious, rotten people, but some of you very clearly are. I mean, if you attack and try to harm businesses which have already been almost destroyed by this COVID in the first place, if you further attack them because they make sure that all of their employees are vaccinated, I mean, you're a pretty dirty, low-down, rotten scumbag. That's what you are. No other way to describe it. And I'm once again saying that not everybody is like that. But obviously, a good many of you are. And I'm hearing from more than a few of you. As I say, don't get me wrong. I'm sure that not all anti-vaxxers are this vicious and this cruel. But the truth be told, far too many of them are. I don't believe that... I don't understand it. So I'm asking you this question. What do you think motivates people to do things like this? What do you think is behind this? I mean, I can understand that people say, well, I'm afraid, I don't like the needle, or I'm afraid of the whole thing. But to attack businesses that are simply trying to be careful, to attack me for urging and for saying exactly what almost every doctor in the world is saying, I don't understand it. Is there anybody out there that got any ideas as what motivates these people? What the hell is wrong with the bulk of the anti-vaxxers? What kind of people are they anyway? What's wrong with them? All right, I'm going to. We don't have any response. We have a few texts.
We've got a few
Okay.
coming in. Yeah, no, I know exactly what you're talking about. Every single morning, I've made it a point in this year of 2021 to post a silly, goofy, corny dad joke. I do it every single morning.
Yeah, I see them.
Even the jokes that I post get attacked by people saying, I had somebody this morning saying, you're funny, you're brainwashed, and you're drinking Lowell's Kool-Aid, but, you're funny. I mean, you're right. They look for opportunities that aren't even there to just bang the drum for their cause. And I don't know what motivates it, and I would love for people to start chiming in on that. All right, Lowell, are you ready? We've got some comments and some of the stuff you brought up today. Better late than never. Rob from Carlton Place emails to say, your first two topics illustrate the same problem in this country. The far-left social activists are firmly in charge of this country. It is getting scarier every day as each freedom we used to enjoy slips away. Each economic project disappears, and every day we get a little bit poorer.
You and I the other day, sort of half-jokingly, were talking about if the Internet existed when we were trying to build the national railway across this country, would it ever have been built? I'm wondering. I'm wondering if we had the the Internet back in the early days, would we even have electricity? Would they have allowed? I mean, when like one of the ugliest things on the landscape today, aside from windmills and so forth, are those huge steel towers that carry electrical wires. We've come to accept it now. You drive along the Hunt Club Road, for example, and they're ugly, huge things. So can you imagine if we had the Internet and they started to build some of those huge things to carry electricity? Can you imagine the electricity? You touch it, it'll kill you. Which is probably true. But I don't, if we'd had the Internet, I don't think anything would ever been built here. We would never, I'm going to tell you, we would never have built the St. Lawrence Seaway. And in all probability, well, it being Quebec, they would have gone ahead with the James Bay, flooding 4,000 square miles. But I just really wonder, which begs the question, John. I mean, are we ever going to build anything in this country, anything anymore? Can we ever actually get anything done here until the country is absolutely bankrupted, until we reach a point approaching that of Venezuela? Because that's what happened in Venezuela. They had a thriving economy, the world's third largest supply of oil, and they were selling oil all over the world, including here to Canada. The socialists took over, wouldn't allow any of these projects. They nationalized it, and you know what happened? You can't buy a loaf of bread in Venezuela. Sponsor, Shields. We had a group of people over yesterday, and we got talking a little bit about this new invention called air fryers. Is that what it is? Air fryers, John?
Yep.
Air fryers. And one of the group has got air fryer. One of the things that I am told that air fryers make wonderful French fries, to reheat French fries, which has always been a problem in our house. You try to reheat French fries. Anyhow, the point I'm trying to make here is that Shields in Pakenham has a full supply of all of the latest makes of air fryers. Air fryers of all kinds, all makes, et cetera, right there in stock, along with all of the other appliances. And as I've stated before, folks, if you're worried about price, you think you're going to get a better price at a big box store, check it out. Go to shields.ca, SCHEELS.ca. There you will see an entire listing of all of the appliances, the prices, the descriptions, in some cases even pictures of it, different colors, etc. Give them. I've always said, at the very least, they're local. It's family. They have a very good reputation. They'll deliver within 2 or 3 days, in all probability. They might even install while they're delivering. In some cases, just depends upon you. At least give it a shot. See if what I'm saying is not right. You may hate me, you may be an anti-vaxxer, but if you like saving money and you'd like to have an appliance quickly, shields.ca. More texts, John.
Yes. By the way, can I just put a plug in? The new Blast the Radio app is there, and people can put that now on their phones and on their tablets and hear your show live. They can also get the podcast right there as well. The number here, 613-413-2217. Robert says, today the Trans-Canada Highway would be nothing but a dream. An email from Lisa who says, Lowell, these environmentalists have a lot of pull, but who are they? Where do they come from? Where do they get their funding from?
Well, they get their funding in many cases. Well, a lot of it is funded by the federal government, to be honest with you. But they also get a lot of, there's a lot of support out there. There's no question about it. But and in some cases, funding for some of these groups, particularly the anti-pipeline groups, is pouring in from the United States, from the oil interest in the United States. I mean, the last thing that the oil interest in the United States want is Canada to be selling oil on the international market. They don't want the competition. They don't want it. And the way for the big oil industry in the United States to stop competition from Canada is to make sure that we can't get our product to foreign markets. And we can't. Even today, here we are. You know, how many years later, and we still cannot get one barrel of oil to Europe, to Asia, etc. More text, John, yes.
Right now on Twitch, they're talking about air fryers, and they're talking about all the good things you can do, and it's making me hungry. I just wanted to say that. 613-413-2217, here's a text. Lowell, some people think forced vaccination is an attack on their rights. They also think that they should hold off on it like they do with the yearly flu shot. Most are younger and realize they are not really affected. Some also think they had COVID already. They don't need the shot, therefore.
But let me just jump in. Yeah, I understand that. I hear that. But why would they attack businesses that just want to tell you that all of their employees are vaccinated? Why would they want to attack me or you, for that matter, who urge people to get? If you don't want to get vaccinated, why do you call me all sorts of names because I think you should be vaccinated? I'm only doing what every doctor in the world is doing. I'm only doing what almost every nurse and healthcare worker and scientist in the entire world is saying. That's all I'm doing. So why am I a commie or a terrorist because I happen to agree with 99.9% of every doctor in the world? If you know what, if I'm a terrorist for urging you to get vaccinated, that means almost every doctor in the world is a freaking terrorist. Go ahead, John.
Nancy says,
I'm ready to throw up my hands here. Go ahead.
I know. Nancy says communism takes out Christians first. We're kind of bouncing around for your three subjects here. Robert says, has any arrest been made in the arson of churches? If so, have their names been released?
No. To my knowledge, I did some work this morning. To the best of my knowledge, I see no record of a single arrest being made. And once again, very little concern. And very little concern being expressed here either. Go ahead.
Chrissy says, is it mostly young that are... Oh, you okay? Chrissy asks, is it mostly the young who are anti-vaxxers or across the board? I think it's mostly younger people, in my opinion, my view. What say you, Lowell?
Well, what they're finding now is the ones who still haven't been vaccinated, the bulk of them are between 20 and 39. But I'm not sure if they're the ones who are carrying out these vicious attacks. I'm not sure if they're the ones who are phoning restaurants, etc. I think they're older people to be. Certainly the ones who are attacking me appear to be older, that's for sure.
Yeah, and it's nice that they do it too from fake accounts and
sure.
Whatever. Yeah, real brave. Carrie says they don't seem to be too quick at trying to solve and arrest the perpetrators of all those damages to churches and the statuses, etc. We've kind of gone over that. Peter says many of them are too overeducated by the internet, talking about anti-vaxxers, self-educated, but look for every anti-vax thing. Lori says, I plan on getting the vaccine, but have been holding off because the inconsistency in the media and reporting had me confused and concerned. I wonder how much of the liberal-run media is truthful.
Well, I mean, you don't have to even read the media. All you have to do is see what's happened here in Ottawa. 2 months ago, we were looking at, 4,000 cases a day in the province of Ontario. Now we're down under 200. Here in Ottawa, our hospitals were jammed. The emergency ward overflowing. They were flying in patients from Toronto for hospital beds here. Drive along Carling Avenue and see what they call the Dome, the big tent that they built there. Why was the tent built? Because there was an overflow of COVID patients. Now, I don't think there's any hospitalizations now.
There aren't.
Why?
And there haven't been all week.
Because, folks, most people in this city have been smart enough to get vaccinated. I mean, just look at the evidence. Forget everything else. Look at the freaking evidence. What's happened since more and more people have become vaccinated? The more people who become vaccinated, the fewer and fewer people we have in hospitals. Drive by Carling Avenue and see what they call the dome, the big tent in the parking lot. It was built for the overflow. There's no overflow now. I don't believe there's a single person being treated for COVID in the city of Ottawa today. Come on, folks. Come on. Use your heads, please. More text, please, John.
Yep, 613-413-2217. This person says, agreed about big oil in the USA, and they are 100% effective, and nobody in Canada cares. They are brainwashed at schools that oil is bad. Just got an email in from Terry Finley. He says the church burnings being ignored is true to building up his voting blocks before the next election. Divide and conquer is his warped way of campaigning. Anti-vaxxers are the type that go through life ignoring common sense and buy into any crackpot schemes going. And when some people hear...
But it goes further than that. That's some of them. They what I'm talking about are those anti-vaxxers who are hassling people like me and John, restaurants and so forth, the ones who are viciously attacking, calling me every name in the book, et cetera, phoning restaurants, making false reservations to harm them financially because all their employees are vaxxed. Why? It's all right. You say, listen, I don't want to get, okay, I don't understand it, but I'll accept that. I don't have any choice. But that's another step to then attack other people. That's a different step. Those are vicious, cruel, nasty, filthy people. Go ahead, John.
I'll do you one better. I saw that article in the Ottawa Citizen, and I recognized a couple of people commenting. They're both business owners themselves supporting this. I don't get that. If you own a business, you've got to have some sort of empathy and understanding for what businesses have been through. And for you to be okay with that, that's a head scratcher to me.
Yeah, it's the whole thing is a head scratcher. There's no question why people would do this. I simply don't understand. As I say, just look around you. Look at what's happened. The more people who get vaccinated, the fewer cases of COVID that we have. Simple as that. All right, got to get a word in here for my other good friends at Centennial Glass. Now, I must tell you that over the years, Centennial Glass has fielded more than a few people who threaten to boycott, et cetera, because I sponsor them. That's fine. They're adults there. They understand. They know me. And not only that, but they also find that sometimes people actually do some business with Centennial Glass because I have endorsed them. You may hate me and all the rest of it, but you know that, well, let's just leave it at that. Let me just say this once again. They're good people. They're honest people. If they give you a quote, they'll stick by it. And if there's something wrong with the workmanship that you don't agree with, whatever it is, they will fix it. They're good people. Good work, windows, doors, anything glass, custom glass furniture. Nobody does it better. And by the way, the prices, very, very reasonable. Centennial Glass, centennialglass.ca in Ottawa and up there in Renfrew. Yes, John, more text than we have to go.
Yep, 3 or 4 real quick ones. Rick says, we could get our energy products to market if we did not have a delusional prime minister who is willing to use the powers of government for the benefit of Canadians. Sonia says, the anti-vaxxers I know are over 40, and this is an interesting comment on Twitch. My son is 26 and refuses to get vaxxed. He knows he won't be able to see his grandfather until he does, but says we are all being brainwashed by media. It leads to an argument every single time. And a text here, Lowell, your show is not long enough to have the debate. What is wrong with these special people? They buy all the bullshit about how the vaccine will harm you. I say put them all on the boat that takes them to the island of the thin herd, live there, and leave the rest of us alone.
Thank you. Thank you all. We will be back.
The Lowell Green Show is seen and heard live around the world at 2 p.m. Eastern. Connect with us online at blasttheradio.com/Lowell Green. Can't join us live? Download the Lowell Green podcast. Available on Apple, Spotify, Google, and more.